situation. One of the picks that remains, however, from game one that you and I were talking about, Pantheon for BLG,
Shout.
a very real possibility.
Good shout. As the bans do remain the same here for BLG, do we see a Pantheon or maybe even an Ambessa ban with Renekton out of the pool? I think a lot more pressure to maybe take away something like Ambessa, which is a champion I think Breathe plays really well. And Bin, if I had any criticism of Bin as a player, I do think that it's sometimes takes Bin a little bit longer to pick up champions versus his peers. But by God, has he picked up Ambessa and really run with that champion. He is a master on the champion now. Oh, we actually see Ryze taken away now in the first phase. We saw Ryze banned out in the latter phase for game one. As IG took that away with bans 4 and 5. But going to make sure Knight doesn't get his hands on that one right off the rip here.
I'm just going to say it. Ryze, I thought it, so I may as well. Ryze kind of the Renekton of the mid lane. He's just generically powerful. He's just going to clear the wave, have some kill threat. And with that taken away, like you talked about, Ambessa still potent, even as Pantheon gets locked in, but this the generically powerful champion for Shun.
Yeah, and again, I mean, looking at BLG so far this year, Shun has played 13 games of Xin Zhao, 12 games of Pantheon, and the Pantheon has been a really big pick for BLG. As Shun, everything that he wants to do with this champ, getting active early, trying to go for some of the invades. Pantheon is, I think, one of the strongest champions that we have right now on the patch. But will be one. We'll see if he can pilot at a high level, as I'm used to seeing. But for me, and Wei, I really feel like Nocturne kind of has to be the answer here into the Pantheon. I mean, you can go Wukong, but Nocturne gives you a little bit more early power. And the option to try and get up in the face of the Pantheon is doing Nocturne early is something that pretty much no jungler in the game can do. So I think this has to be the choice for Wei, as you kind of get to match the semi-globals and supply some of that early pressure that IG might be looking for.
Really nice support pick as well for Mako. When we talk about generically powerful champions, very rarely does Bard come up, because Bard is not in his own right just going to outright win you a game because of the numbers, but you put it in the hands of somebody like Mako. We've got several really talented Bard players here in the LPL, and you can really make some magic happen. Journeys or everything, really. It feels like Bard can really do a little bit of everything. Ezreal, Jwei locked in on the other side is some pretty extreme poke coming out of BLG, though.
Yeah, I will say Jwei is really strong. We've seen a lot of Jwei, and in the hands of good Jwei players, I think that Jwei is definitely a pick that can be played in the meta. I don't love Jwei, though, into a champion like Nocturne, because the ability to attack Jwei now on the side lane is pretty big. I think Jwei is definitely can be punished in that area. And curious, yeah, if we get another side laner to try and help catch that in. So Breathe going to take the York. This is a good matchup into the Jwei. And the ability for Nocturne and York to find a 2.5v1 to the side lane, really, with the Maiden, I think could be a winning formula for IG. So differences of strategy showing here early, Dia, with the York being the dedicated side laner, the Nocturne able to potentially really impact side lane play with the threat that he has, and that's semi-global. Whereas that Jwei Ezreal, kind of a poke core for BLG, which worked out really well for them in game one, because they kind of ended up with that, right, with the Syndra Corki Nami.
Yeah, the Ezreal going to fulfill a very similar role here, and I much prefer the pick for Breathe of Yorick than Cassante, as Cassante really didn't do much for them last game. There was, I think, not a single time where I was like, oh my gosh, this all out, changing the game. We didn't really see too much of that, so having Yorick as a champion that can actually do something at all points in the game is going to be really nice. Caitlyn taken away, so is the Neeko, as we're focusing down towards the bot lane on, realistically for BLG, what are good matchups for the Ezreal, and likely taking away a little bit more of the range.
Yeah, definitely targeting on with those two bans, as I will say his Anivia still up if he wants it. I think that could be an option if they want to try and find something lane dominant into the Bard. Speaking of lane dominance, of course, Caitlyn denied from Jwei, as we have seen Kate Bard really climb up the ranks in priority. Pretty easy to chain traps off of those long stun durations with the Qs and the Tempered Fates. As I Actually, I'm kind of curious about the Victor ban, because I was thinking of Victor as being a pretty decent pick for Knight here. If he wanted to go for some control and kind of feed into the poke as well.
Is it possible we're flexing this Jace?
Yes, it is. It's definitely something that Knight can play. And frankly, something... I don't know if Victor ban gives away, though. It's going to be Jace mid. But it could be flexible, as Jin's coming in. Yorick and the pets do set up Jin to hit some of those deadly flourishes at range, which I do like for Jin. I think that Jin needs a little bit of setup. And there isn't that super tank in the top lane to really deny or dissuade Jin, unless we want to see some crazy swaps going on. But Sion and the Yorick, we've seen a lot, and again, that's kind of a favorable matchup for Yorick. You definitely don't want to take a tank up into the top lane into that thing if you are going to put the Jace mid, which, based on the hovers, doesn't look like that's going to be the plan for BLG.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like what they're considering, although I really like the idea of Mel here, giving even more range to the composition. Ooh. Instead, they will go with the LeBlanc out of Knight.
I mean, we haven't seen this pick out of Knight so far this split, but it is Renard's champ. We've seen a lot of LeBlanc played by Renard, and I think he's played the champ decently well. That said, he did lose in that Game 3 versus Weibo against Xiaohu's Lissandra, and it looks like he's going to take something out of the book, as he's going to play his own Lissandra going into the LeBlanc. And this gives you some pretty decent defense against Pantheon LeBlanc. Your ability to go into the tomb yourself, try and get out of potential Panth stun or the chains or those combos. Also, your ability to try and break what looks to be a poke setup in a very squishy team. I want to see Renard play this Lissandra to get a lot of one-shot ability coming in. Try and cater to the one-shots. You add on to the ability for Nocturne to hunt in the sides. And I gotta say, if Renard can find angles, turning off the lights with a Paranoia, and then throwing the Claw in from Fog, that's really tough for teams to deal with. It's kind of a different iteration or version of Nocturne Ahri, because Ahri into the Blanc can be a hard matchup for Ahri, whereas the Sandra to the Blanc, a little bit of a happier matchup for the Sandra. I do think that the Blanc can win this, but it takes a lot of skill, and we didn't see Renard get the best of it going into Xiaohu. So fun to see Renard now play the other side of the matchup against Knight.
Yeah, now is seeing how these compositions have played themselves out. I do want to touch back in on the weakness of IG from game number 1, sort of lacking the quick go button. Nocturne has solved a lot of that for me. As reliant as he is on the ultimate, you definitely have a go button, and Lissandra and Jin being there to back this up, just giving an incredible amount of utility to what I'll call the core 4 of this bot lane for IG. Is that enough to take on BLG?
That's enough to take on the Pantheon early. As I was an NACL earlier today, Dia. I forgot about the Jayos. I had to honor those. That's my bad.
We need
got
more collegiate cheering.
Yeah, we got them louder. As do some collegiate cheering tomorrow, as we do have the round of 32 starting. But my love for NA development in League of Legends has to go to the wayside for now, because we've got big pro game being played here between BLG and IG. Both teams sitting at 3-1, trying to get the edge on the other in the standings, and bounce back from a loss earlier in the week. As if you guys missed game 1, we did see BLG, I think, play out their comp really nicely, as IG got a little bit stubborn as the game went on, trying to make their strats work. They did not work. And this game with the Jin Bard does look like IG, I think, appropriately opting to path away from this, but BLG and Shun matching, because he's going to work his way towards the top side as well.
Nicely timed exhaust, just to trade the summoners pretty early on for BLG. I think IG are going to be really thankful that we aren't seeing any of the early game shenanigans that we did last time, though. Shun staying in his own side of the jungle for now, and even not pretty warded up, so everybody knows where the junglers are going to be, and that should theoretically give IG a little bit more time to prepare for the later stage of the game, when, especially at level 6 for Jwei, where he'll be feeling a lot more comfortable impacting the rest of the map as the junglers start clearing that top side, and finally we will get a ping from IG recognizing where Shun is.
I will say that if a play breaks out on this top crab between Nocturne and Pantheon, I favor the ability for Nocturne to duel. That said, if the lanes get involved for BLG, LeBlanc can be a really deadly setup and at least potential to play with Pantheon. As Renard blows all of his cooldowns to get this wave in and get that TP back first. We'll be a little bit late in terms of helping out with that crab if it does end up being contested, but looks like Shun prioritized clearing out his AoE cast first and is going to work his way towards that bot crab, knowing that he doesn't have priority versus the Nocturne.
Not a stellar early back from Renard, but doesn't want to deal with having to manage his mana up against Knight, which is completely understandable.
It was fine.
Yeah.
It was kind of necessary. Jwei going for the double crab, though, as Shun to go straight for it. Yeah, bit of maybe a missed opportunity here. It's going to be a nice lead for Jwei in the jungle. Getting both crabs and going to be able to cycle out his bot camps quite easily, I think, before the base. He'll be pretty happy with this.
You invade Jwei, he wins. You don't invade Jwei, he wins. You know, the early game just going quite well for IG. 2 games now. Now, the Jayce matchup, something that I do want to keep my eye on, as the Yorick was picked into it intentionally, of course, but it is another case of BLG grabbing Bin, a generically powerful champion, and trusting him to do what he does best and dominate the top lane.
This was, real quick, I'm with you, Dia. It was kind of a weird sequence from Shun, who did a little bit of a ring around the rosy. Went for bot crab, looked like he tried to look for the top crab, and both were gone. So he's going to be late to getting to his respawn camps, whereas Nocturne has already finished up both, clearing as fast as he always does. As we have seen Nocturne be a very highly contested jungler this split, just because of his ability to really open up Raptor invades and his dueling ability, how quickly he clears. One of the primo power junglers on the patch.
We're starting to tick our way ever closer to level 6s as level 5s hit in the jungle, but 22 seconds left on first dragon spawn. We've still got another 3 minutes until grubs, something that teams should start to think about. You'll notice a lot of vision placed already in the river for both BLG and IG to keep tabs on what happens with this first dragon, which will be a Cloud Drake.
One that I think that Nocturne's going to try and want to get involved in, but honestly, Jwei going to try and get this top crab first, because if he gets the top crab, that will be level 6. And then we might be able to see him get involved against Bin and the Jayce. Really curious where this first ult goes for Jwei. I think he has options, because you do have the Tomb mid to play with Renard, and Paranoia in the Tomb, that sounds good to me. But LeBlanc can be quite slippery, and I think that there is a little bit more credence to maybe setting this Jayce behind. Because if Jayce does get behind, again, Breathe on the Yorick, this dedicated side laner. Want to see if he can really be the one that stretches out the map, because Ezreal LeBlanc will not be able to deal with Yorick later on. This Yorick really has potential, I think, this game to be huge.
And currently has been completely undisturbed. Crab going to be spawning topside. There's also the chance for Renard and Jwei to just try and one-shot the Pantheon.
He's trying to get 6 off his wave. Look at that XP bar for Jwei. It's kind of close. We're going.
Close enough. Renard is going to go in on this. Has level 6, but has to burn it on himself to stay alive. With Mako here and a Fear now burned onto Shun, but not actually completed. Jwei's got to back off. And IG... They're fishing. They really want the level 6 play.
Breathe here.
With Breathe here, maybe they can make it happen. Knight's in the back line looking for Renard, and he picks up first blood as Shun gets trapped in the baby cage and shut down by IG. With Bin's late arrival, he's looking for Jwei. Then he will manage to pop the jungler. Finally, the escape from IG gonna come in. 2 for 2. Jwei and Renard down. Bin and Shun down, but Knight the big winner.
Yeah, Mako getting both those kills, not exactly ideal here for IG. I think they would have liked that gold elsewhere. That said, taking Jayce off the map when he already TP'd, this is going to help Breathe get ahead, and Breathe was quite big in that skirmish. So I think that's the biggest positive I can see for IG. But again, kind of a weird start to the fight, and I did not like that entrance from Renard.
Flash out of Viper as well. Jwei does pop barrier to avoid death. and will be able to back off. Burning Flash out of Viper, not really the most punishable thing in the world, but still going to be a nice feather in your cap as we take another look back at how this all went down. IG really trying to force.
A great chain from On off the Shun stun, but Renard ulting himself there I don't think is part of the strategy. And then he's kind of pulled or dragged to stay. Breeze at half. Knight's able to find him as Renard again the target. Tomb off cooldown. Tomb's on
Knight
CD.
picks up another kill. Yep. This is not the way it was written, Cubby. This is not how it's meant to go.
Tomb was on CD. They found him while that Tomb was down, and it feels like both games a real priority on BLG to try and play out the mid-jungle duo. I think Pantheon LeBlanc and Jarvan Syndra into the picks that I've seen Renard pull out. It's really strong combos. I think they've really drafted to try and make life hard on Renard, and BLG playing with that draft well as well around the mid lane. As Renard behind again in this game.
Been having an awkward time up against the Yorick. We haven't really seen Breathe get giant yet, but he's sitting on a decent amount of gold when he should choose to back. Mako and Jiachi have been relatively undisturbed as the Viper on matchup hasn't been too punishing, but the real focus, as you've said, has been around this mid lane as Renard once again tries to get aggressive in the jungle as Jwei looks for the mid laner. The two split. Renard's trying to kill Wei's counterpart, and Wei's trying to kill his. In the end, they get neither.
That was a lot burned to get Wei a red buff. I do think that this is going to help with what could be a grub fight. As Breathe does have the Maiden coming off cooldown, so if he wants to throw down the Maiden, I think Wei's going to start hitting the grubs. And grubs for Yorick, very good. Because again, Yorick going to try and be that dedicated side laner. Grub's going to help him break open the map. So IG get a small win there, but yeah, the first Paranoia, I mean, you're going to get grubs out of it. You got an enemy red buff out of it, but it doesn't come with a kill. It doesn't come with setting an opponent behind.
Shun, even though he's spotted on vision backing, still does go straight to Dragon on his way back. There's the possibility that this gets traded and the BLG pick up first Drake. Even though this is on vision, IG seem happy going back to their own jungle. It could be all right.
It's no up for Wei. He's got his camps up. He took the grubs. I think that this is just part of the trade going on. Not exactly contestable here. Chain and W missing from our two mid laners. As On. Good catch by Mako to prevent all the damage from going over to Jiachi, but On doing a lot of damage here.
Yeah, still
on
not
the
great.
Anivia.
Mako gets burned down.
Maybe we should have caught the Ezreal damage. Dia? A little bit not calculated.
It's you or your AD, I think. I fear that he had a fake choice.
Well, Jiachi had barrier and flash up. Mako did burn the heal and also burned through his entire health bar and life. So, not exactly what I'm hoping to see from my LPL support goat, Dia. This guy is historically Mako is one of the goats of the league, and I think his bard's a good one. So we'll see if he can bounce back later on in this game and prove that one.
Really been about team utility, and right now he's in the mid lane, looking for a little bit more of it. On's shown up here as well, though, and this Anivia has been a pain in whatever behind Bard has. We do have a Paranoia up. I mean, we can fight this, especially with the distortion used. Wei's gonna burn his ult right on top of Knight, try and shut him down as the fear comes through. Flash forward from Renard, and the kill does go over to Jwei, who flashes just to avoid the little bit of damage that On was going to throw at him. Could have been enough on top of the turret. That shutdown's big, though.
Yeah, I think the flash from Knight was cast a little bit early, because what he's trying to do is he wants to break the tether. Got to pause as the ult casts top. Breathe flashes. Okay.
And all good.
Breathe gets out with a flash, so might be a potential revisit up there, but I think Breathe happy with that. Yeah, I think Knight wasn't able to break the tether. Might have flashed a little bit too early after what it looked to me. The Paranoia came through. You want to let it hit and then flash and try and W out after. I think Knight kind of prioritized clearing too much space early. Might have wanted to hold that distortion or the secondary one on the ult. So after Paranoia hits, he could distort out, then flash out to break the tether and get out. Knight actually, I think, kind of played that mechanically wrong and ended up going down. So rare mistake from Knight and a good pickup for Jwei, as that will help that ult cooldown get off CD even faster with Ultimate Hunter, as Viper and On looking aggressively.
Jwei's just having such a difficult time answering this back. Knight does eat a tomb, but Shun is here. Forces the glacial path out, and Renard managed to back away, survive this one. On Relentless, however, fighting for vision in this tribe rush, and will do a lot of damage to Mako as a result. He's just sitting there eating this. Has to actually flash away even with the magical journey, and Jwei's in trouble as he eats the exhaust underneath the tower. Sub 100 HP, and Jwei manages to survive. Jwei coming down, and Paranoia gets popped on the overextending Anivia. Finally, the bot lane pushes up one step too far.
Man, On was on fire with that sequence. Just overextended a hair too much. Talked about Jwei's ultimate cooldown being a bit lower with every kill. Another tick in the right direction for getting that Paranoia back up off cooldown with progressing that Ultimate Hunter. And I mean, I thought On was cooking there. I think that, so on Anivia, at home, if you cast your R to cancel it, you can actually get a bonus tick. You get an extra tick when you cancel it. I think if he canceled it, he might have actually found the kill on Jwei. I didn't see the cancel or the extra tick. That's something to look out for. If you watch the tick, right after ticks, you cancel it, you get another one as part of your Anivia attack. I mean, Jwei was so low that actually could have been the difference between him living or not. That said, On goes down, loses the egg, and Jwei gets the kill. And IG kind of evens up the scoreboard here a bit, Dia.
Yeah, this was one of those scenarios where you're begging for jungle attention and it's so difficult to give. Finally, Jwei is able to grant time over to the bot lane because, honestly, the rest of the map has been incredibly difficult. On does overextend, however, without egg and without much to do, unfortunately. Will go down with 30 seconds left on this Rift Herald and the next dragon. This could very easily turn into more for IG.
In the spirit of WrestleMania being this weekend, and me casting with Deserux earlier today, Breathe gets to be the Undertaker a little bit as Yorick. As here we go, Jwei's going in, tower disabled. Oh, Mako. What was that Q?
As was foretold, magical journey out does save Mako, and a lot of damage on Ben, but no kill.
Brother was feared, and that Q was thrown in the Narnia. Mako, my goat. We must play better, just a little bit. I think that really could have been a kill. It could have been a kill on the bin. Yeah, the Paranoia was so self-inflicted there. I think that was a missed out opportunity to kill on the bin. I really think IG had that play.
This time going to go a bit long on it. However, BLG do get the Rift Herald as a result. They saw the reset come in from IG, who are now looking for a fight on. Will he get locked up? In comes the Deadly Flourish. Cleanse to come through, but out goes a Curtain Call, slowing him down as Jwei collects yet another one, giving the kill over to Jwei.
So,
Dragon up.
Dia, I know we have a lot of Jhin haters at home. I just know it. This champion has been a little bit divisive. I think we've seen a lot of games where Jhin just goes up against a tank and doesn't have enough damage. You know where I do really like Jhin, though, in these scenarios? You can outrange or kind of be an arms race to make sure your team has more range. Bree's going to go down in top lane.
This is a trade, by the way. There's a reason that we're not freaking out about this. BLG know that the dragon is being taken, and they want a top lane in response. It looks like they're going to get it as well with the Rift Herald charge here. This could very easily be first tower going to BLG.
But one of the more common trades that we used to see was Jhin being played into Ziggs in past seasons. And part of that was that Jhin was one of the few champions you could take where you actually get a range advantage into Ziggs. I kind of see that in this game where you're playing Jhin into Ezreal, into Jace. We talked about the poke comp and that control that Anivia brings. You do outrange Anivia, and we have seen this interaction be used positively a few times.
Mako does find Tempered Fate. In comes the Paranoia as well. This is as it was foretold. Bin isolated underneath the tower. Gonna get flashed on to be finished off by Jwei, who picks up his third kill of the game.
Mako, please hit these Qs on targets that are CC'd in the future. I know that we're phased Rush Fear running away, but hey, at least we still got the kill, and Mako gonna get a flash out thanks to a nice magical journey. Well placed. All that's been going on, Knight's picking up some farm and points in the bot lane, doing his best to try and knock down that turret, as it is no grubs for BLG. Going to enable IG to try and play a little bit faster across the map. And I gotta say, I like IG. We talked about using the Nocturne Yorick to attack that J-Stia. They've been doing a good job of this. And Breathe is sitting pretty here at 1-1 and 2. Even on CS, I know Ben has a wee bit of a gold lead, but really feel like Yorick has the opportunity to take off with this game and be that dedicated side laner that can really break this map open for IG.
He's going to need an instance of doing this on his own at some point to tell us that this is actually complete. Mako flash into the magical journey to get away from a BLG that have set up very well around the Drake. Drake or no Drake, as it happens not to be available right now, but the vision control for BLG still on point.
It is kind of interesting to see how many more Anivias have been played, and I think On still has been hands down the best one. Was the one that really started to popularize this pick. Amazing what happens when you decrease that Q cooldown by 1 second across the board. An ability that oftentimes gets maxed last on Anivia, or only is gifted a point or two, because of the wall and the importance to have a lot of that control with the terrain. So you take a 1 second off the 1 point wonder cooldown. That Q is a really good base ability. You're able to do a lot of work with it. So see if On can continue to kind of play on the edge, try and look for the traps and not get caught quite as much as the squishy support Anivia. BLG setting their sights on this upcoming Dragon Dia.
Jwei's got 3 kills. I know that you know, on the Jhin, as you say, typically
look at this.
we see
this is
more
good.
tanks, but he might be approaching Divinity right now. Egg gets popped, Tempered Fate goes out, and now Jwei moves up to 4-0. This may not be Yunara Lulu, but I don't want to tango with it.
I mean, guys, Jhin has stuff to proc W. He outranges the poke comp, can set up picks, and we have really seen him own On. I mean, the last 3-4 deaths that we've seen from On have all come from IG and Jwei hitting these deadly flourishes, able to follow up and shut him down. There isn't a champion where we're going to see Jhin really run out of damage. I mean, it's less because you're playing Jhin. You have to play around the 4th shots, but this is On going for a setup. There's no Q. W on point for Jwei, and goodbye passive. Goodbye Anivia. No chance for a retort as Mako. It's a very clever binding, which also gets a flash out of the Ezreal in the back half. And yeah, that's a happy coach. And frankly, I think this is one of the better Jhin angles, dare I say, that I've seen, Dia. With the lack of a tank for BLG and your ability to kind of outrange this poke comp, play with the Nocturne Yorick, I think this was a good angle for the Jhin. What IG set up, and Jwei playing it well, and I think quietly from game 1, but now loudly in game 2, Dia, having a really good series.
Yeah, great response to the Jace pick as well that really lets you know, oh, you know what? This is going to be a more feasible place to play a champion that otherwise struggles to deal with tanks. However, when we think about BLG, obviously their mid game has been rough. 20 seconds left till this dragon that IG could collect another one of. BLG surely have drafted themselves some way to deal with something, if not the Nocturne Paranoia. Renard right on top of Bin, and this is the cyberbullying that was foretold. On's on the side right now, but from a distance, we've got the curtain call doing work for IG, turning things into a double kill for Breathe. And On, wrong side of the map, wrong place, wrong time, wrong everything, has Jwei moving on him.
Oh, that's cute. I don't think it matters.
It does not.
Oh, we're flashing. We're still on the wrong side of the tracks, Dia.
And there's no benefit to trying to live through this because you're not going to.
You're right.
And what are you stalling for?
You, my friend, are Overwatch pilled. Staggering bases. This is good. This is valuable. As On flashes and dies, but frankly, this game's really gotten out of control for BLG. And I just think IG are doing a better job of executing their comp. Look at this. Lissandra Nocturne talked about it. Executing on the side lane or the Jace that can be squishy. Talked about how we thought Jace was strong, but kind of a risky champ for Bin to play. into something like a Nocturne that is so effective at attacking the sides. BLG is slow to respond. IG get a big kill. And now Jwei, he might need some help, actually. That chain's going to hit. Yeah. He's in trouble.
Yeah, Paranoia popped defensively, and even that, not enough. On's around here as well, but we've seen On do this before, and that is not going to work out for him. Jwei flashes off the wall to survive, gets out with the blast cone, and even with Knight popping back here to try and secure the kill, Jwei is out of there. Renard and Breathe on the front line will collect yet another kill as Knight looks for Jwei. But he's not going to be able to finish him off. He and Shun now on the wrong side of the rift. We've seen this story with their support. And curtain call to add insult to the very injured BLG gives another kill over to Jwei.
It was a good find on the way. I'm really happy that they tried to pressure Jwei and got that early flash out. But Bin, you're not playing Sion. We're playing Jace. We TP'd into the middle of everyone. And this feels like a little bit of whipped cream on doo-doo, because 1,500 kills for Ben and June. Congrats, that's cool. But we're in a game that's slowly getting more and more out of control. In favor of IG, I think that BLG actually had a nice attempt there at an off-tempo play to catch IG off guard, but that TP from Ben, he TP'd into his own demise with the one-shot when we get the replay, as again... I like the start. This is off-tempo play. You can see IG's on reset. They're trying to get back out onto the map. Jun's able to find the engage, takes the crab. This is a great start to the play. But On, playing way too far up, gets one shot. And this TP from Bin, again, we aren't playing Sion. We're playing Jason. You can see Renard, he's just waiting for Bin to land. Like, thank you very much. Sets him up for the team. Takes him down before he can fire off a single ability. As we return to live, and BLG
live, we are doing it again. IG own the jungle of BLG, and I'll be honest with you, Cubby, it looks like they own this game, as that is 3 quick kills going their way. They have a 4,000 gold lead. To be honest, it's not the biggest gold lead you're going to see, but it's going to feel like that with IG using it. Knight, still technically a threat, and I say that really only technically.
Jump back in, as he had a nice chain in the Jwei. I really didn't like this draft from BLG, I think, in hindsight. It's so greedy playing Jace into Bard, Nocturne, showing. We picked Jace, and then they went Yorick. It just sets up so easily for IG to have this dedicated side lane push where they can continuously attack Jin on the Bin on the Jace. I don't care how good you are. That champ, it's hard. And there's no smite here, so this should be IG's. Oh, okay. Almost bad.
Looking for a little bit of pokes. Jwei secures the Baron, and Shun does jump on top of Renard to finish the kill. Viper actually gets away, picking up another one, but again, curtain call gets opened up, canceled very quickly by the threat of Shun. IG are fighting in an awkward position, and Viper, managing to survive for so long, has forced IG into an awkward position as the curtain call snipes him out. IG managed to get the Baron and equalize the kills.
A little bit of sauce there from Viper, and at least 2 kills do go over to BLG, but still 3 Barons on the map. I was scared for that Baron. That smite was not on point in the replay from Jwei, as I had a bit of a panic mode here. But again, I feel like more of the story of this game is just IG doing a better job of playing towards their comp and the win cons that they need. I really like that magical journey, by the way, from Mako. Got Jwei out of harm's way. As the only reason this fight was close is that Viper pulled off some heroics, and it was a good entrance to the fight from Shun. But again, BLG behind, and that picture-in-picture, that's a Pantheon death again. As the ability to attack the Nocturne, Yorick, the Sandra with Jin Bard over the top. I like this comp from IG. This has been a really solid draft that I do not feel like BLG respected with their own draft and taking the Jace.
BLG have really drafted or to be able to poke you away from things, and the problem is that IG, especially with how accelerated their composition is, don't have to sit there and take poke. Jwei gets to press R, and you're fighting.
Man, we have Rocket Belt LeBlanc. I mean, we got out of a Deadly Flourish, but I feel like Science is going very far with our use of this item.
It's basically paid for itself.
Yeah, I like I like AP on LeBlanc. I think. Oh, well, Rocket Belt for On. That's not gonna work out. He still gets tagged.
Yeah,
we're going to game 3.
It looks like it. I mean, the way that IG have played this at the start of the game wasn't flashy, wasn't crazy, and that has mattered not at all, because as this game has gone on, it is like a snowball gathering momentum. Jwei has picked up weight, picked up heft, and now even all the focus from BLG cannot finish him off, as he is the one to execute Shun before getting out. Bin still looking for an angle here. And credit to BLG. They have never stopped looking for a way to win, even as it gets further and further away from them. Flash forward from Breathe will pick up the kill. Viper's looking for Mako. IG are playing Defend the President with Jwei, who is in the opposing base. Does eat a true shot barrage, but at the end of the game, it's right in front of IG.
Jwei's going down.
They just got to deal with all this BLG shenanigans first. Jwei gonna get out with the Hex Gate.
No, he didn't.
And right
I
in the
got
arms
him.
of Knight.
This is sloppy. This is a little ugly, actually, in the back half. Knight and Viper were able to actually find some pretty big shutdowns, as Knight, all of a sudden, on my screen, is 7-1-3. But he can't hunt with Yorick around. I think Breathe is going to make sure that LeBlanc is not likely able to find the Lissandra, who does have ultimate available. Yep.
Oh.
There it is. Ult came back up.
There it is.
Knight put into the tomb and into the gray screen is a bit of a sloppy attempt at a finish there from IG, but I don't think it's going to change where this game is headed anyway. As sadly, On had an 8-death Anivia performance. Not exactly what he wanted out of the champion that he really was responsible for helping popularize down in that bot lane. I just, looking back, I really love the draft of IG, and again, we'll stand by this usage of Jhin and stand by the fact that this is definitely an ego Jace pick from Bin. Just not the game to do it when Bar Nocturne is showing.
Nocturne once again going to get some pretty crazy value here. Everybody running away from the paranoia. Never mind the tempered fate right on top of your Ezreal. This game is not getting any easier, as Curtain Call is going to connect directly with the scrambled egg
Goodbye, Bin.
that On has become. Knight and Shun wanted to do some scrambling right back, look for Mako, and well, they will ultimately boil down a Bard. IG walk this one right down the mid lane. 2 inhibitors down. 1 Nexus tower stands in their way, and it is formality and formality alone that has kept them from Game 3 for the last couple minutes. We'll be seeing you in this third game, where we determine whether IG really can bring this all the way back.
Coming into the day, Dia, I said I thought it would be 3. I thought we'd be talking to Rafa and Elk later, as they're the casters that are up next. After Game 1, I did not feel that way. But that Game 2, that was a really impressive draft, looking back, I think, from IG. And again, I know that there is a lot of Jhin hate going around right now, and a lot of that hate is deserved. It's not a strong champion when you look at some of the win rates and where it's picked in, but that was a good Jhin angle. If you have the ability to take Jhin and kind of reassert your range advantage into Jace plus Ezreal, you have the ability with stuff like Nocturne, Bard, Yorick. Jhin can play off that really nicely. And I think that Jwei had a phenomenal game playing off those tools with the Jhin. A lot of those kills onto On started with the deadly flourishes connecting and being capitalized on, turning an ounce of damage into a kill onto stuff like Anivia. I really, really like the draft from IG and feel like BLG dug themselves further into a hole with some of their own decisions they made in that draft and not respecting some of the tools that were showing for IG.
I mean, it's not like their draft didn't have win conditions, though. And
You're right.
I don't want to give that impression, right? Like,
yeah.
BLG, they may have had a draft that wasn't generically as strong as it was in Game 1, but ultimately they lost control of the game, and that's not up to the draft, that's up to them.
Yeah, and again, champs like Jhin, Lissandra, they might struggle in the comps that have an Ornn, have a Scion. Those champions were not present in that game. And if you give those champions the ability to one-shot anyone on their screen, then that's when you see, BLG lose control and IG be able to run away with things, given the ability for Jwei to play quickly with the Nocturne. I think he got really accelerated in the game, got a few extra paranoias, because he had access to an earlier Hexploit and was stacking up that Ultimate Hunter quite well. Then we saw Mako getting active on the Bard. It felt like On and Bin just started chain dying to a lot of the tools that we saw IG throwing out with their ability to play that game faster. So I'm with you, Dia, because, even going back to that game 1, what was the advantage that BLG had? They had poke with the Corki Nami. They played that poke comp really well. And we were looking at this comp like, wow, you have Jace, LeBlanc, Ezreal. That's an opportunity to put down a lot of poke and try and maybe create the same formula to win that we saw in the last game. Even thinking about playing into the mid-jungle duo. We saw Pantheon LeBlanc get ahead early on that Lissandra. But the ability to flip it around, and again, the amount of burst damage that can come out from a Lissandra, the setup for Jins. I really like how this comp played with each other for IG. And they were more disciplined at playing towards their win con.
That's certainly true, especially one of the things that had stood out to me during the course of this game. So we'll take a look at the highlights, some from BLG's perspective and some from BLG's suffering, was the Pantheon. We talked about this really early in the draft. It was the expected pick for BLG. For a Pantheon composition, it was not cooking, because Panth really didn't get the chance to just sit there and engage over and over and over again, find some success with a mid-jungle duo, and farm the map. Shun realistically got double scuttled really early on. IG won that, the early couple of minutes, then was set behind by the fact that once we hit level 6, IG just got to press play on a lot of objectives, and we weren't really seeing Shun do the same thing.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. I want to say that part of it was kind of inting in the mid game.
Yeah.
And I think that we saw Jwei play really well with Mako and their ability to attack the sides, whereas I think that a little bit harder for Shun to do the same because his support was spending a lot of mid game in the gray screen. And then Knight was kind of isolated in the side lane, picking up what he could. And I do think that's the best individual for Shun to play around, as those point-and-click stuns from the Pantheon and setting up for the LeBlanc are pretty deadly. But yeah, once that game kind of got rolling in favor of IG, their ability to play fast, speed it up, was played really well by them. And, well, Dia, I mean, kind of going back to what we were talking about before Game 1, we set the table for our matchup tonight of each team looking to bounce back from a loss earlier in the week. BLG, of course, looking to bounce back from their 11 series win streak being broken, dating back to first stand. And we talked about how IG, I think, have a chance to really change or reshape the narrative of Group Ascend in the LPL with a win tonight. Because if IG wins, we're going to have a top esports squad and an IG squad sitting at the top of our standings, each featuring young players kind of making their debuts or re-debuts, looking at the top laner there for top esports. That find themselves at the top of the LPL standings. I think that's really exciting for the league moving forward. And honestly, kind of weird seeing teams really make wholesale changes and be at the top of standings of what is a very competitive group. Because I think one of the big stories for me last year was I had LCK teams as having a big edge against LPL teams, because most of those projects that were international were kind of the back half of 2-year-plus long projects, keeping those players together, building up that synergy, and figuring out ways to win as a team of 5, maybe changing out 1 or 2 pieces, but not wholesale changes like this. It's an IG that's changed out 4 out of 5 members, and a top esports that's changed out 3 out of 5 members to kind of bounce back. Each have featured young players as well hitting the rift. And if they find themselves over BLG in the standings, as both teams would have beaten BLG this week, it really changes the narrative of what's going on here in the LPL with Group Ascend if IG can find a Game 3 win.
Yeah, I know that you're a big fan of a talent development story, and IG could be one of the biggest pieces in that off of this series. BLG still have to bring it back, but with Jwei playing the way that he was, certainly earns himself a player of the game in this particular round, and excited to see how much further he can push it, or if BLG can punish him once again, as they did in Game 1. I gotta say, Dia, get themselves back at the top of the league. Yeah,
I casted 2 Jin Pogs today, so I don't know what's going on. Maybe I just am the reason that this champion's popping off. I know that Jin hate runs deep in the league community currently, but not that game. That was a very good Jin game. I really liked it where it was in the comp. Really liked how it was played. Re-establishing range advantage with Jin. He is a very, very valuable champion for that. Good angle for IG. Well played by Jotchi. And a great game 2 win from IG across the board.
Now we've got game 3 coming up on the other side of this break. I honestly couldn't tell you who's going to win. You're just going to have to tune in and find out in a few minutes.